So we're talking about like the relationship with a parent and their child, how it's different, and also the different time periods in our lives where we have different perspectives. You brought up a really good topic of compassionate listening. You want to share what?
Yes. So oftentimes when we deal with people, we address the situation based on our perspective. So for example, as we were talking earlier, can I mention?
Yes, please.
Okay. So you talked about your mom talking to you about topics that you did not feel were important or necessary, but that is coming from your perspective. So the challenge I gave you was, what if you flip the storyline and look at it from her perspective? Why do you think she would be telling you about some random, seemingly gossip-like stories that are nonsensical to you, or even irrelevant or a waste of time? So I gave you the perspective from the older generation standpoint, like somebody like me who has children, that sometimes as a parent, when we don't see our kids very often, and the few hours that we see them or the few days that we see them, we want to spend as much time with them to try to recapture to make up for lost time. And so can you imagine if I was your dad and you come to see me once every 6 months, and I see you, for example, I see you today, first time in 6 months. We're not going to sit here and just stare at each other, right? I mean, we can either, if I'm of the age where I'm able to say play ball with you, we can play ball and we can have fun together. But not everybody can do that. So some people can just sit around and have a nice conversation. So the topic of conversation should be spontaneous. So if your mom suddenly thought about your aunt and some gossipy like story about your aunt, then so be it. It's still a conversation.
Right.
The issue there is the important thing there is not the content of the conversation, but the why of having that conversation. You're having that conversation because you want to spend time.
Right.
For example, like the last session we had, I often refer to death and dying because there's a lot of lessons to be learned when you think about life from the lens of death and dying, you know? So for example, if I was in my deathbed and you came to visit me, we're not going to talk about my death. Or I'm not going to talk about my impending death. I'm not going to talk about my fears and everything. I just want to connect with you. I just want to spend time.
Yeah.
And whatever we want to talk
happens.
about, I just want to be there. I don't care what topic we talk about. But then can you imagine, so I'm laying there and we're staring at each other. I'm weak and I don't really know. I can't think of any funny stories to tell you. I don't have to even say anything. And then if I suddenly say, hey, that window looks pretty nice over there, I just want to talk about the window. The important thing there is not the window. The important thing there is the why we are together. So you wanted to spend time with me because I don't have much time left. And me, I feel that I have very little time left, but you're important to me. I want to make time for people who are important to me. So you see, it's the essence of why you're together. So when we start judging the value of the mundane thing, for example, if the topic is if your mom talked to you about some gossipy stuff about your aunt, you lost sight of the whole objective there. The objective is a mother who loves her child and is missing her child and just wants to have to connect with that child again, because you rarely have that opportunity.
Right.
And she's just finding something to do to achieve that goal of connecting with you. And in this case, the first thing she thought about was talking about your aunt.
Right.
Right? Sometimes it could be cooking. But so some people are just busy cooking. So Thanksgiving, when you hang out, people just cook, and you just stand around while somebody's cooking and you just chit chat. It's not the food, because the food is consumed in like 10 minutes.
Right. It's quick.
Right? But it's not the cooking. We're using the cooking as a means to bring people together.
Right. Yes.
Right? That's why in everything, we have to try to sometimes pull back and ask ourselves, why are we doing what we're doing? So let me ask you, like right
Please.
now, we're doing this.
Yes.
Why are we doing what we're doing? You know?
Yeah.
Like,
my story is to deepen literally deepen the theme of what really matters. It's like seriously in my own life. And I think that having these conversations leads to that, frankly. And that's important to me.
yeah.
You know?
So now I'm giving you my old guy's perspective, right? And that's a nice thing about this podcast that we're doing. You come from the younger generation's perspective. I give you the older guy's perspective, you know?
Yep.
So you see, so last week we talked about how when you're young, you want to accumulate, right? You want to accumulate knowledge, accumulate wealth, accumulate experience, accumulate trophies, accumulate positions. When you get to my age, it doesn't matter. I really don't care about a lot of those stuff.
Is it that the care is no longer as present because you have achieved it, or is the care there because, or the lack of care there because it no longer is meaningful, irregardless of the achievement?
Okay, it does not. I've already learned that they don't satisfy.
I see.
That it's not that important.
Right.
For example, like after that pickleball tournament, I saw Miguel last week.
Oh yeah.
And Miguel said, "How did you guys do?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "We won gold in one division and won silver in the other division." And then he said, "You said it as if it's like an everyday thing." So I said, "Yeah, it's really an everyday thing."
You should see the room I have in my house.
No.
Just teasing.
No, but I'd say it's really just an everyday thing because, I mean, who cares? The joy of the winning is gone. Right now, you ask me, I don't even care.
Yeah.
Whether I won or I lost, it has no effect on me. But anyway, so back to the issue, like why we're doing this. Like, so you said, because you learn from this experience, it makes you a better person. You learn insights and everything. You know, that would not be my answer. My answer is why am I doing this podcasting? Because it feels good to do something that's meaningful for other people. So people who are gonna listen to us, can you imagine? Hopefully, there are more than 5 people who will listen to us. Can you imagine if somebody says, "I heard that podcast. What really matters? That Asian dude who was talking about this." Even if they don't remember my name, it doesn't matter. But if they remember an insight that I shared and it affected them, and it changed their way of thinking, or it changed their life, or made them feel better for a moment, hey, we've achieved our goal. You know, so the best thing is when somebody comes up to you and say, "Hey, Kris, that time when you talked to me and I was so down, and you spent time with me and you saved my life." That the effect of that statement will last so much longer than if you were to say, "Hey, I learned to be a better whatever."
Yeah.
Because I mean, if you say, "Oh, I learned this concept because of you," that's just one of thousands of concepts that you will learn. And once you learn the concept, okay, it's yours, then you move on to the next. So it doesn't satisfy. But the satisfaction of somebody telling you, "Hey, you changed my life," the effect of that is lasting.
Wow.
I'll give you an example, okay?
Please.
Okay, so last week, a patient came to see me. So this is a new patient consultation. So the referral was for difficulty swallowing and weight loss. So I reviewed the patient's medical records, and then I realized, oh, I saw this patient 3 or 4 years ago. So I reviewed the patient's records before I entered the room. So this patient had end-stage lung disease. Her lungs are scarred down. She has what you call interstitial lung disease. So her entire lungs are scarred down and she cannot breathe. She came into my office at that time with an oxygen tank. She cannot breathe without supplemental oxygen. And so I walked into her room and I said, so I was expecting to see this same person that I saw that is, I mean, based on my description on my notes, very thin, is on oxygen, can barely breathe. And so before I went into the room, I was thinking, what am I going to do with her? She has difficulty swallowing, which for most cases, I would put a scope down and check if they have scarring of their esophagus. Then I would put a balloon and stretch it. But in this case, this patient is so sick, and she can hardly breathe. She's on oxygen. I cannot put her to sleep. If I put her to sleep for the procedure, she may not wake up.
Right.
Or she may end up on a ventilator. So I'm certainly not going to do that. She's unstable.
Right.
She's unstable for me to scope her.
This is prior to you walking into
Prior to me walking in. So I was reviewing her chart. So I reviewed for her past history and everything. So she's end-stage lung disease. That ain't going to get better. Okay?
Yeah.
So in other words, she's dying. So what am I going to do? Difficulty swallowing, weight loss. Of course she's going to lose weight. She's about to die. She's dying. And what am I going to do? Difficulty swallowing. I can't put her to sleep. I can't scope her. I can't stretch her esophagus. There's nothing I can do. So in my mind, I'm thinking, so what am I going to do? So I walked into the patient's room. I walked in. I saw a healthy 60-plus-year-old lady.
Wow.
She's healthy. So I go, oh, is this the same person?
Completely different.
Yeah. But before I started talking to her, do you remember me? She said that was her her opening statement. Normally I introduce myself. I said, I'm Dr. Antuaco. I said, yeah, I saw you about 3-4 years ago. And how can I help you today? And then she said, do you remember me? Okay. So I said, okay. I said, yeah, I know I saw you 3 years ago. So I asked her, what are you trying to say? So she said, this is before we even talked about any of her medical stuff, okay? Which turned out she has no medical stuff, okay? She didn't go there for her medical stuff.
Oh, okay. Well, but her medical stuff is gone. They're not gone.
There was really nothing that I needed to do for her. So she said, okay. She said, 3 years ago, she said, when you walked into the room, you asked me if I was a Christian. She said, that was the first thing you said to me when you walked into the room 3 years ago. Okay. I said, yeah. I said, I have maybe some recollection because there are a few occasions I've said that. So, yeah, those are moments that I probably felt something. So she goes that I told her. So first I asked her if she was a Christian. And then I proceeded to tell her that I entered the room and I suddenly felt the Holy Spirit moving in the room. And I told her, apparently, that all the hair on my body were standing up.
Whoa.
And so apparently I explained to her that I felt the Holy Spirit in the room because I walked into the room, I felt the hair in my body all stand up. But I've had a few of those experiences, and I'm not afraid to talk about my faith, but because I know it, I mean, I can't prove to anybody about feeling the Holy Spirit, or there's no way for me to prove it. Take my word for it, believe me or not. But there are a few occasions in my life as a doctor that I walk into a room and I can feel the Holy Spirit. So that's why I must have asked her, are you a Christian? Because I wanted to, before I talked to her about the Holy Spirit, if she was not a Christian, how can I explain the Holy Spirit? So she said she documented our whole interaction on Facebook, and she was going to pull it up and print it out for me. Because she said the day after she left my office, she posted something on Facebook for all her friends because it was such a remarkable experience.
Wow.
So I said that what she has is not going to end in death. Apparently, she said that I said that this is all just a trial. Okay, this is a dying woman with dead lungs. And then I apparently told her that this is not going to end in your death, and this is just a test from God.
Wow.
Okay, so
that's
why?
The Spirit talking through.
But why I said that, I don't know.
Yeah, that's the Holy
and
Spirit.
It's gutsy for me to say that as a doctor.
Yeah.
You're paying me to treat you for your gastrointestinal problem, and I'm telling you that you're not gonna. That God is just testing you. You're not gonna die from this.
Wow.
So that was 3 years ago, and she documented that on Facebook. But I haven't seen her back, and she was going to print it out for me because she couldn't find it on her phone. And then she said that before she left my clinic 3 years ago, she said, I will come back and tell you when all is said and done. And that's why she's there last week.
That's incredible.
Okay, so let me tell you what happened. So she has dead lungs, and her doctor referred her to Vanderbilt University for double lung transplant. Yeah, they do lung transplant.
Wow.
Double lung transplant. Both lungs are dead. She's not going to live. She needs a lung transplant. She refused it. She went to Vanderbilt, and they were all ready to list her for lung transplant and everything, but they had one requirement. She needed to get the COVID vaccine before they will transplant her.
Interesting.
And she refused.
Smart woman.
No.
Sorry.
No. I mean, not really. She's dying.
This is kind of like a last...
She has no lungs.
Right.
And you have an opportunity to get a lung transplant. You're already 1 foot in, and you turn it down. And she turned it down because she said she felt that God spoke to her and said, don't do it. And she turned it down.
Wow.
2 years later now, she's off oxygen. She weaned herself off her medicine. She's on a very strong drug called mycophenolate. It's a immunosuppressive agent to help slow down the lung progression. She said it's not helping anyway, so she weaned herself off of that on her own. Not advisable.
Right. And probably wouldn't work for...
And then she gradually weaned herself off oxygen.
Wow.
She's on no oxygen now. 0 since February of 2024.
Holy cow.
Okay, wait, I'm not finished yet.
Sorry. But that's incredible.
So I was still in shock when she was telling me the whole story. You gave up the opportunity to have a lung transplant. Do you know the statistics, just how many people can get it? Because there's so little donor. The donor pool is so small.
Wow.
And so you have the opportunity. You're already there. You can get a lung transplant and have a normal life and breathe better. All you have to do is get a COVID shot and get the vaccine, get the transplant. And she turned it down because God told her that she doesn't need it.
Wow.
And then she weaned off that mycophenolate. That's a very powerful immunosuppressive agent. That's dangerous. I wouldn't advise anybody to do that. And then she weaned herself off the oxygen. That's how much faith she had.
That's impressive.
And she's off oxygen. And so I was so dumbfounded when she was telling me all that story. And then I said, hold on 1 second. Because I reviewed her chart before I went into her room. So I remembered seeing the x-ray that I did because I couldn't put her to sleep. I had her do an x-ray where she swallowed some white liquid called barium. So it's a barium esophagram just to check her esophagus because I can't put her to sleep. I just did an x-ray to see if there's anything that I can fix. And that x-ray is for the esophagus and the stomach. So the radiologist, the report talked about the esophagus and the stomach. And then there was a one full paragraph there that says, the lung looked horrible. It was like all scarred down and whatever. I mean, never have I seen an upper GI x-ray report looking at the esophagus and stomach where the radiologist reported on the lung.
Yeah.
Because it was so bad.
Wow.
So I gave it to her. I printed it and gave it to her. I said, this is your x-ray.
Wow.
This is proof that you're not supposed to be here today alive. without oxygen.
Wow. That is crazy.
Okay, so anyways, how did we get to that topic? I was talking about the Holy Spirit.
Yes, the Spirit, and we're talking about compassionate listening, but also we're talking about the impact that we have on people and discussing things. To me, the compassionate listening is deepening what really matters.
Yeah.
And you were speaking that when you give back and what really may matter to you now
is giving back
and having an impact on people. And this was an example of
right. That's right. When this lady told me that I made a huge impact on her life by that one statement I made 3 years ago.
Wow.
Man, that means a lot.
That does.
And that joy is gonna last forever. I just thinking about what could have happened or what made me say that, and the impact on this lady. This is unbelievable. It's not just it's not amazing because I said something. It's amazing how God used me to say it.
Wow.
How in the world, like today I told you I'm very tired. I just came from work. I mean, I'm so tired, and I start seeing patients from 7 a.m. till like 5 o'clock, 5:30, 6 o'clock. I'm exhausted. Can you imagine if I go into your room and you're my last patient or whatever, I have no time to talk about the Holy Spirit unless the Holy Spirit makes me talk about the Holy Spirit.
Wow.
I have no interest to talk about. I just want to finish my work and go home. But when you feel it, I mean, that's how I feel the Holy Spirit works. When the Holy Spirit moves you, you can't stop it.
Right.
You can't keep your mouth shut. You don't even know what you're saying.
Yeah.
So,
it's funny now that you say that. I had an interesting moment I was sharing with you before we started about a conversation I had with a lady on the phone earlier. And one of the things I did before we left, because I was like, I could feel that she was hurting. And I was like, I felt very called in the moment to pray for her. I said, hey, do you mind if I say a prayer for you? Or with you, rather. And she said, yeah, sure. Just, no problem. I love it when people pray for me and all this and that. And I'm like, no, right now. And she's like, oh. And so I do, prayer. And at the end of it, she's like, thank you. I needed that. And I didn't even really know. But thank you for listening and being there to... I mean, she called because, she wants to sell her house, but we talked about her house for 5 minutes, but we talked for an hour about
that's exactly my point. That's exactly my point. So in everything we do, if you do things with the end in mind being the mundane things, for example, if you're selling houses, if the end in your mind is to make a sale, then you're losing the point.
Right.
Selling houses is your platform, but what is the purpose of your life? That's why when I talk to people who want to have meaningful conversations with me, I always encourage them to ask that question: what is the purpose of my life? What is the why of my life, right? What is the purpose of my life? Because if you don't know your purpose in life, you're just sleepwalking through life. You're wasting life. So if you don't know your purpose in life, if you sell houses, all you care about is, okay, you sell a house, you make the money, you move on to the next project. Life will be so meaningless. Okay, for example, so I'm a doctor. So if my end in life is to make a living, then every patient I see, I enter the room. I want to stay on time, 15 minutes. Okay, get out. Go in, get out, write a prescription, move on. And then make the money, charge, collect the money, and that's it. How does it feel when you go home? You're tired and you gained nothing. Okay, you made a few bucks. Okay, there's inflation. $1,000 feels like $200 in a few years. Yeah. So it loses its taste, But if you go in doing your mundane thing, your mundane everyday life with your purpose in mind, then everything will be more meaningful. Example, when I see patients, a lot of my patients have to wait an hour or more.
Before they see you.
Oh, no. When they're waiting, they end up waiting an hour or more. I'm not the doctor who every 15 minutes, if your appointment is 10:15, I see you 10:15, you're out by 10:30. No, I just don't do that. And I don't really want to do that. Because there are easy patients, there are difficult patients. I have patients who will drive 2 hours just to see me, just to tell me how good they feel.
Wow.
Am I going to rush them because they only have 15 minutes? Well, no. They drove 2 hours to see me because they want to tell me how good they feel.
Wow.
They're paying me to tell me how good they feel. Will I rush them? No. I have a patient who came into the room with acid reflux. 2 minutes. That's a 2-minute consult. I finished my 2-minute consult. Easy. Then she spent 45 minutes crying to me about how she cheated on her husband. And her husband still loves her.
Wow.
And she's in love with this guy who she attended an AA meeting with 20 years ago.
Wow.
And she's devastated by her dilemma. Am I going to rush her out of the room? I just cannot do that. I don't have the skill to do that. I don't know how to rush somebody out of my room. But my purpose in life is to heal. That lady's reflux is because she's stressed out because of her infidelity.
Right. Yep.
Giving her the prescription is not going to heal her, right?
Absolutely.
And then my purpose in life is to heal, is to serve God by serving my patients. So if I rush her out, then I'm not serving God. Because serving means you give people what they need. This lady needed me to listen to her.
Right.
She needs the prescription, but she needed me to listen to her more than anything else.
Yes. That expression, to me, the expression of those things helps heal.
She trusted me, and this is not something you can just go around and tell people.
Yeah.
But she trusted me. She knew me from the hospital before.
Wow.
She worked in the hospital, and she knew me from before. And she came just to tell me about her infidelity. I'm not a psychiatrist. So if I was to follow the worldly calling, people will say, you're such a dumb doctor. You're wasting your time. And then you're making your other patients wait. How can that be right? Well, what's right or wrong is not up to me. That's up to God. But my conscience is clear. I know what I'm here in this world for. I'm not here to be on time, 15 minutes and stuff. That's not my calling. I never look at my watch when I see my patients. When I see I never look at my watch.
Wow.
And then I'm very blessed to have good nurses who worked for me through the years. And they know when Tuago's in the room for more than 15 minutes, don't knock. They know what's going on.
So
because oftentimes they go in, the patient will be crying. And they'll ask me, why is the patient crying?
Oh, wow. That's really good.
But so circling back, that's what really matters in life, is making a difference in somebody's life. So what if you stay on time every single day? Every 15 minutes you're on time, in and out. So your patients write you great reviews. Oh, this doctor is always on time. But you help no one.
Yeah.
Because when they needed help, you were looking at your watch. Oh, your time's up. I'm done. And you help no one.
So what I'm listening there is it's not obvious. So meaning the help is not obvious, where someone comes in for a prescription, but that's not necessarily the help that they are looking for.
No. So if you look at it from the worldly standpoint, yes, they need a prescription. Why else are they there?
Right.
Or they're there for a procedure. Why else are they there? Right? But I can feel their needs. So I have, I don't know what to call it, sixth sense or whatever. I can feel a lot of things even before you say anything. And I take pride in that. And I use that in running a business too. I can tell what the employees need most of the time, even before they tell me. And I mean, some of our administrators know that the one thing I don't like is I don't like to wait for people to tell me what they need before I know. So I don't like my partners or the board members to tell me, oh, something needs to be done. I feel like a failure if they have to tell me what they need before I know. I feel I always have to preempt and to anticipate other people's needs before they even tell me. Wow. Otherwise, I feel like a failure.
Interesting.
Because I take pride in that. Because you have to be able to read people and know other people's needs. Because, for example, if you're depressed, you're not going to come to me and say, hey, Terence, I'm depressed. Can you spend time with me? No.
Right.
You're already depressed. When you're depressed, you feel like nobody cares. And then if you ask me to spend time with you, and I did spend time with you, it means nothing to you because you're thinking, I spent time with you because you asked me and I couldn't say no.
I see.
Right? It loses the genuine, fortuitous gift to you of my time, right? So if you're depressed, you would want me to be able to sense it on my own and offer my help without you asking. Am I not right?
Yes.
Because, so for example, if you say, hey, Terence, tell me that you're proud of me. Oh, Kris, I'm proud of you. It means nothing.
Right.
Because you asked me to tell you I'm proud of you. But if I on my own said I'm proud of you,
right,
it means more.
Absolutely.
Right? Same thing if you're depressed. And so people who are depressed feel that nobody cares. That's why you're depressed, right? You feel alone. You feel neglected. Misunderstood. Unheard, right? That's why you're depressed. When you don't feel alone, why would you be depressed, right? When someone is depressed, they feel isolated. So the best cure for depression is for somebody to care, genuinely care.
Right.
So how do I prove that I genuinely care? Because I showed you my care without you having to ask me for it.
Yeah.
It's like saying, hey, tell me you love me. Oh, I love you. Yeah. Doesn't mean anything. Because you told me you love me because I asked you to tell me. Does it make sense?
Yes.
So
yeah, it's really good. I like the anticipation piece sometimes because I find myself what's how do I say that? So what's coming to my mind is how I can use my platform of buying homes to have an impact on people. And now there may be times where I do have an impact on people, but in a way it's not, I don't sit down to work every day and say, I'm going to use this platform to impact people. Sometimes I get caught in the material world of, hey, I want to produce 6 transactions this month.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
I have the answer for that.
Yes. And sometimes it's not that way, but I would say that I've been working to have that, hey, we need to produce 6 transactions.
All right.
I want that to go away.
Okay. My business principle is simple. I've told you this before. People like to do business with people they like.
Yes.
So how do people like you? So if I meet a stranger, they will like me if I do something for them. Okay. For example, I'm selling houses, for example. And somebody asks me, hey, do you know an electrician who can help me with my house? And, oh, yeah, I know someone. I'll send him your way. I did not make a sale of a house, but I helped a guy who needed an electrician, and I have contacts, and I sent my contact to your house to take care of you. I developed a relationship with you by sending you the electrician who's a friend of mine, whom I know.
Right.
So I helped you. So I'm helping myself by helping you, because now you develop a liking for me because I genuinely helped you without even trying to sell you anything, right?
Right.
So that's a good business practice. There's a book, you have that book here, The Go-Giver.
Yes, I love that book.
That's the concept of the go-giver. It's a very generic concept, but the thing is, you're helping yourself by helping other people. And the biggest bonus there is you feel good whenever you help someone.
Yes.
You truly feel good. Come on.
Truly.
Have you met anybody who's helped someone and doesn't say that they feel good?
Right. Oh, I'm miserable. I helped 7 people.
So the thing is, when you help someone and don't even get anything back, who cares? You know, you actually feel good about it. Even if you don't get anything back, at least you felt good. And then word gets around, and people like you, and then people want to do business with you, because so business. I mean, obviously, I do some. I'm a doctor, but I do business. You know? But so for example, if I'm selling houses, okay, you're selling a house. Okay, so I'm the buyer, and you've been nice to me, even if you're not selling anything to me. And I have 2 houses I'm looking at. Equal, I like them more or less the same. Maybe one a little bit over the other, and then the other one maybe a little bit more expensive than the other. But psychologically, I am more likely to lean towards the house that you are selling than the other one.
Right.
Because I would rather give the business to you than to the other one.
I see.
I mean, we're talking about if they're equivalent.
Sure. Right.
So that's the way life works. And so, you know, back to the question about how do you apply your purpose in life? My advice there, this is not an advice show, but
It's okay.
But an advice there, or what I would do is, I never think about the end of what I'm doing. I just keep in mind, I just want to help. And
Start
then
there.
making money should be just a side effect or a consequence of doing good.
Right.
So if I happen to make money, great. Okay, for example, so I write books. So let me plug, right? I have 2 books out. So I don't go out and sell my books. I don't go say, hey, I have these books, okay? Hey, buy my book. If I say that, nobody's going to buy my book. But who buys my book? The people who I touched, whose lives I have touched.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have several examples, you know, like, so I have a patient who was sitting in my waiting room. I have a sample of my book in my office. And while she was waiting for me, she was reading my book. And then while she was in my office, she told me about some of her personal struggles and whatever that came up. And I was just giving her encouragement and trying to give her some hope. And then when I went home, I realized she bought 2 of my books. I didn't directly sell to her, but because I inspired her or I encouraged her, she felt she wanted to know more about me, and she bought my book, right? So if you try to sell people for the sake of selling, you will never be able to sell anything.
Yeah.
So you're selling houses. It's not just to make a sale. Number one, you're helping someone find the right place for them that they want to live in and raise their family in. You should sincerely help them find the right house, even if it's not the house that you're selling.
Right.
Because, so one time when I first came to Arkansas, I had this realtor who drove me around, because my employer or potential employer asked them to show me around to convince me that Little Rock is a nice place to live and all these things, right? So she drove me around, and then she did so much for me. She drove me around. She offered to pick me up the next day, take me to some restaurant, and show me places. And then she helped me. I asked her for some information about stuff, and she just helped me out. She just helped me. I felt like I had found a friend. And then when the time comes for me to need a realtor, I still remember her name. So she was just being a genuinely nice human being. She may not have made a sale because I haven't moved here.
Right.
But in years later, when I needed a realtor, I remember her.
Wow.
But that's how it is. So it's just being a genuinely good human being. That is the best business principle I can ever share. Just be kind to people. Just help people out. You're gonna end up getting rewarded. And if not, the fact that you were able to help someone, you're just happy. It's a self-fulfilling endeavor. You help someone, there's no way but to feel good about it. So either way, you're rewarded.
Right.
So
I like that. That's good. I think about that. I have a story about when I first started in real estate. What I was doing was basically I was like cold calling people all day. That was my job. And the cold call was basically asking them, hey, have you ever considered selling your house? And if yes, we may be interested in buying your house, right? So I did that for like the first 6 months of 2020, and I produced 4 transactions. And it was very trying to produce those transactions. And I barely had enough money to survive, basically. And I was having a conversation with this woman that coaches me. And one of the things she mentioned to me in the call at the time was my desire to produce a transaction was so strong that it was repelling to people, right?
Exactly.
I couldn't care for them because I was so busy caring about me.
Exactly. That's exactly the point.
And she mentioned that, and I'm like, oh, wow. Makes a lot of sense.
100%.
So I made a transition. And so I produced 4 transactions in the first 6 months and then 54 in the following 6 months. So 13 and a half times where I was the previous 6 months. And that was a really good testament to being of service to people, to what they need, not what I need. Okay. And I'm inevitably taken care of along the way.
Another way, a more practical way of approaching that thought that you just said is look at every interaction you have with anyone as an opportunity to build relationships. Business is about building relationships. Life is about building relationships. It's the human connection. Life is meaningless if you don't have relationships. Life is meaningless if you don't have connection. If you don't have the human connection, life will be so empty. Business is all about relationships. When I see a patient, I don't see them as a number or a diagnosis. I go in there with the thought, I want to build a relationship with this person. Meaning, not just hang out or that kind of relationship, but like, for example, I'm a liver subspecialist. I take care of a lot of liver failure patients, so people who are very, very sick. And I build relationships with their families. A lot of them are my Facebook friends, and some of them, even after their spouses pass away, they're still in touch with me. I have a patient who's so sweet. She brings me, she has chicken, and she brings me eggs every time. I like those fresh eggs. That means a lot to me. Means awesome. A lot. And she had liver cancer, and I helped her as a doctor, helped her get through and get a liver transplant, and she felt like I saved her life, but I'm just doing my job. But what I really did for her was I built a relationship with her to where when she's not feeling good and she's worried, she can call me.
Wow.
Or when like I have another patient who recently passed away, and to this day, his spouse still stay in touch with me all the time. And the only thing that I did different to him that I did outside of my calling as a doctor is I'm always there for them, in the sense that when somebody is dying, they're worried that they're very sick, so I'm there to help explain everything to them. And I always made it a point in every interaction with my patients, the one objective I have is to always give people hope. And that's why I told you earlier, let's talk about hope. It's that's one of my guiding principles as a doctor is it's not about giving them the right medicine. It's not about doing the right procedure. It's giving people hope. So I've learned, like, even if I were to give somebody a difficult or a grim diagnosis, there is a way of doing it to where you give people hope. You don't lie to them. Mm-hmm. It's not about lying to them or hiding the truth from them. No, it's about giving them hope. Hope in whatever sense of the word. Mm-hmm. Whatever. Hope gives people strength. Gives them the strength to go through another day.
Yeah.
Gives them the strength to go through the pain of getting stuck with needles because they have hope of something better to come.
Yeah.
So as a doctor, that's the most important thing for me. It's about giving people hope, because I have enough knowledge. Like I told you before I came here, I told you I was up till 4 a.m. the other day trying to help someone, I'm not going to mention obviously, but trying to help someone who was just diagnosed with uterine cancer. And I'm trying to give them help and give them hope, enough hope for her to seek treatment. Because if she has no hope, why would she even seek treatment? No matter how grim the prognosis is, there's always hope. And hope can come in different form. It doesn't necessarily mean hope that the cancer is going to get cured. It's not always that. There's all sorts of stuff. After the diagnosis, people care about their everyday experience. Am I going to be in pain? Is a chemo going to be very hard? Am I going to be able to tolerate it? There's so many questions. It's very hard to deal with illnesses, especially serious illnesses.
Yeah.
But obviously, I've been a doctor for so many years. It's experience. Plus, I also have that desire to be better at being a doctor. I don't mean being a better doctor by knowing all the treatments and everything. I mean, that's easy. That doesn't mean anything to me anymore. I'm trying to learn the art of being a doctor. There's a science part of it. I've already accomplished that, I think. But it's the art of being a doctor that I continue to try to improve.
And that's like the soft skills, the communication.
Yeah. Because, healing the soul of the patient.
Yes.
Because, I may not be able to cure them, but I should be able to comfort them. That's a Hippocratic oath. Hurt no one, number one. Number two, if you cannot cure, you should comfort. So that's the art of medicine part. So
Wow.
I know we're jumping from one topic to the
no,
other.
it's good. Thank you. No, that was really enjoyable. Yeah, I like, and I think maybe we can do it for another podcast, but I would love to go into death, and how knowing death can make us more alive, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. Because the thing is, we make stupid mistakes, or we become arrogant when we have a sense of immortality.
Yeah.
It's the sense of mortality that gives us humility. It's a sense of mortality that puts our mind in the right place. Like, what really matters, right? The question of what really matters is if you put it in the context of death and dying.
Yeah, we're talking
if
about
I'm mad at you about something, it seems like it's such a big deal that I'm mad at you about that thing. But if you put it in the concept of death and dying, like, okay, if I have one day to live, does it even matter that you called me names? Does it even matter? No.
Yeah.
So for example, okay, your business, you're selling houses. If you have one day to live, selling another house, is it more important for you to sell another house or to have a relationship with the guy you're selling the house to, or being to say that you've helped that person?
Yeah.
For example, you're selling a house to this guy, and then you heard that his daughter was very ill. You could have stopped for 5 minutes and talked to him and comfort him about his daughter, or you're in a hurry because you're trying to make a sale.
Yeah.
What really matters?
Right.
So that earning that extra buck has no meaning. You can't take it with you. Obviously, when you need to make money to live, and you need money to be able to achieve the purposes of your life. Like me, if I don't have enough money as a doctor, I cannot start a business and give people jobs. Or if I do not make enough money, I cannot even publish a book that I wanted to write to inspire people. It costs a lot of money to publish a book.
Yeah.
So I mean, you need money, but it should not be the end all and be all of what you do. You need to have money to be able to do what you do. But if you know the why of trying to make money, then you will make money in a more ethical way, right?
Absolutely.
If you're trying to make money with the end of just making money and increasing your bank account, you will do whatever it takes to get there, to reach your goal,
Yeah.
right? But if you're making money with a higher purpose, then you are more likely to do it ethically.
What comes to my mind is if you're making money because you want money rather than a higher purpose, the cost of producing the money is really high.
Yeah.
But when you're pursuing a purpose, the cost is irrelevant. Like, how do I say that? Like, it's not that you don't have costs. They're much lower because you're not stepping on other people to make money, or you're not, being unethical when you're transacting with someone.
Because being unethical or stepping on other people's toes, there will be short-term gains.
Yes.
In
the long term.
The pain from the consequences of doing that is costly, and the pain can be pretty intense, right?
Yeah. I think about reputation with that. It's like, you only have one reputation. I say how that it's easy. It takes a long time to build, but it's very easy to break.
Yeah.
And so if you build, it takes a long time of being of service and helping other people to build that reputation that people do like and trust you. Whereas let's just say you were trying to fast track it, then you produce a lot of bad moods, what I call them, in people, where they're like, every time I'm around him, he's kind of arrogant about everything, and I just don't really want to be around that. I start to resent the interaction, right? And then it's like people are repelled by you, and then you wonder why.
So business, you have to have a higher purpose for the business, and you need to have a just cause, right?
Yeah.
So for example, us as a medical practice, if our purpose is merely to make money, we will do all sorts of shortcut
efficiency things.
Well, so-called efficiency, but it's cost cutting to achieve your profit goals, if that's the sole goal of the company.
Yeah.
But as a leader of setting the vision for the company, I like to emphasize that the higher purpose of our medical practice is about giving excellent quality care and giving outstanding customer service, okay? Because the higher purpose of the company is to be able to build a facility that offers the community a place that is trustworthy, a place where patients feel valued, and a place where the patient can get the care that they need. That's the higher purpose.
Yeah.
It's not just about making a profit. And then the other purpose is to be able to take care of our employees and provide jobs, right?
Yes.
So if your primary purpose is just to have the highest profit year, then you will do all sorts of unethical things to cut costs and shortcuts to make the profit. But here we're looking at the long-term goals here, which is to keep patients coming and to make the company a household name to where it becomes a brand that people trust. That when people say Premier Gastroenterology, it's a brand that people trust. People know we're going to get good doctors. People know we're going to get good service. People know we have good facility, clean facility, right?
Yeah.
It's looking at the long-term, more important aspects of it, the just cause, the higher purpose. We always have to, whatever we do should be towards that just cause and the higher purpose in order for us to succeed long-term.
Right.
If you just look at the immediate gratification of making a profit, if we're selling houses, you want to establish a reputation to where, if I call Kris, He's going to help me find the best property I need. And he's going to give me good quality work that even though I don't know what's behind the walls, I can trust him that he's not going to shortchange us by putting bad quality material just to make a profit.
Absolutely.
Because trust me, people will know. They live in that house 2 years, they'll know. Wall starts cracking,
floor's uneven.
Floor warping, they'll know. And then your reputation will tank and you can never recover.
Man. Yeah, that's really
You'd rather make less profit now and build a reputation to where later on you don't even have to struggle to tell people about your reputation because your reputation will precede you.
It's interesting you say that. I've been thinking about the quality. So I've been in an assessment of the costs that it takes for me to do renovations and things like that, and just kind of doing my budgeting, if you will. And I know that there are times and definitely in different places where I'm paying more than maybe I would like, or maybe I have in the past, for my guys to do the work. And my immediate thought right after that is, I pay these guys more money because every time they do it right. And every time there's a situation, even if it means that I go over budget. So for example, I just completed a renovation and I'm thinking we're good, we're ready to rock and roll. And they send me a picture. Hey, this is the last thing. We're doing a last round check of the house. We noticed the hot water heater had a crack at the bottom. It needs to be replaced. And if they hadn't done that round, maybe we would have not seen it. And so I said, great, let's do it. Let's get it done. So boom, we get it done. But had they not gone through to do that and want to provide and know that, I'm after providing a quality product to people, they might not have ever said anything.
Yeah. In a business, you should know who are your consumers. Who are you trying to please? So in your case, it's not just the buyer.
Yeah.
You also have to please the contractors because you're depending on them. They're the ones doing the work.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't like you, they are less likely to put in the extra effort to do it right. Mm-hmm. If there's a piece of wood that's a little bit off center, they're less likely to go through the hassle of redoing it. But if they like you and they have loyalty to you, they're more likely to make that extra sacrifice for you. And then the same way you make the extra sacrifice by making less profit for the buyer. And so then they admire your honesty, and then you become trustworthy, and then they tell their friends about you, and their friends tell their friends about you, and that's how a business grows. It's like us as doctors. So this wise old doctor, when he was trying to recruit me from my previous group, he interviewed me, and then we were chatting, and then he said, the most important thing here is just do good to your patients because they are your best marketing tool, because it's the word of mouth that gets you known. Even if you just make friends with the other doctors who you think will refer patients to you, in the end, it's the patients. The patients tell their doctors, "Oh, I want to see Dr. Antuaka," or right, or somebody told me he's a good doctor, right? So it's the patients, it's the word of mouth. So it's worth it, Like me, the most important thing for me as a doctor is I would always spend time to talk to my patients, explain everything, and listen to them. That takes time. It's not very smart based on other people's eyes because it consumes time, and time is money, and it gets me stuck in the office for a longer time. But you know what? It's worth it because just imagine if you're sick, even if I'm the smartest doctor in the world, but if I spend 1 minute with you and I don't even explain to you what's wrong with you, and you leave my office not knowing what's wrong with you, and you don't feel any encouragement or hope that you're going to be alive, you're not going to like me. You're not going to come back to see me. Obviously, if I'm subpar, that's a whole different story, right? But between a doctor who would spend time and speak and talk to their patients and listen to their patients with an average intelligence, and somebody who has superior intelligence but don't even talk to their patients, people will come to this guy who talks to their patients. And what good is it if you have all the knowledge in your head, but it doesn't come out of your mouth and nobody understands what they need to know? You're the only one who knows what's in your head.
Right.
How does it benefit anyone?
That's really good. Yeah.
So if you cannot communicate or spend time with your patients and comfort them, what's the point? Nobody will know how good you are.
Right.
Because the vibe is bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you go to the smartest doctor in the world, say, "Oh, you have cancer. You'll be dead in a few months, and this is the chemotherapy that will work. It has a 25% chance of cure. Okay, let's get started." Do you think you're gonna go for it?
I mean, it's gonna put you in an interesting position where you may seek a second opinion, or a different,
Yeah. Because when you're sick, okay, so the psychology of a patient who is sick. Think of a time when you're really sick. You're looking for somebody who cares.
I had COVID one time. I went to this urgent care place, and I go up to the desk and say, "Hey, I'm sick. I think I have COVID." Because they asked me like, "Hey, what are you in for?" or whatever, and I was like, "Oh, well, I think I have COVID." And they said, the first thing they said to me is, "Why did you come here?" And I said, "Well, in my family, when people are sick, they go to the doctor. So I'm at what I perceive to be the doctor's office. Am I correct in this?" And then I get in this room, and they say, "Well, yeah, I mean, sounds like you have the symptoms of COVID, so here's your prescription." And I'm like, "I'm not taking any of this." And like to this day, I think I still even have the prescription, just like a situation that I remember where I was like, the whole interaction, I was like, they didn't ask me any qualifying questions. They didn't ask me about any of my symptoms other than taking my initial read, like temperature, weight, and all this, and then my short story of my symptoms. Anyway, so I noticed that, and I was like, I don't think I'm gonna come back here.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's the same. That's a universal concept.
Yeah.
The bottom line is, it is smart business to be nice to people.
Yeah.
That's a smart business rule. Just be nice and just try to help someone.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about the sale. The sale will come.
Right. Yeah.
So
having faith. All right. I think it's a good place to wrap up.
Okay. Perfect timing.
Yes. This is the end of episode 2 of What Really Matters. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.